Hello, and welcome to the FM podcast. I'm Jen Fritz, and I run Fritz Media, a music publicity and digital marketing firm located in Vancouver, Canada. And this is episode number 38 of the podcast. So the topic for this week's show is the power of community. And joining me on the show is Leonard Podolak, who is the executive director of Home Roots. Now, Leonard and I had a great conversation about how Home Roots has helped create communities for musicians across Canada over the last 15 years, and how things have shifted for Home Roots during the pandemic. And we also discussed the Home Roots 15th anniversary tour, which wraps up this Friday, April 29th, with a virtual show in Winnipeg featuring Barber, Double the Trouble, and Bobby Dove. It was a really great talk, and I hope you enjoy it. Here's my conversation with Leonard Podolak. Well, hello, Leonard. How are you doing today?
Excellent. How are you, Jen?
I'm doing okay, actually, all things considered. As good as anyone can be during these troubled times, I guess.
In troubled times, they truly seem to be.
Oh, it's totally true. We've never met before, so nice to meet you virtually.
Absolutely.
Full disclosure, Fritz Media is currently working with you on Home Roots 15th anniversary tour, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, the topic of today's show is the power of community, which is something you know a lot about. You're the executive director of Home Roots. And with these conversations that I have, I like to start at the beginning. So can you tell us a little bit about how your music career started? Like, how did you get to where you are now? Where did it all begin?
It all began in the womb. Basically, my parents founded the Winnipeg Folk Festival in 1974, which was a year before I was born. I was born a couple weeks after the second edition. And my father had been rabble-rousing in all kinds of ways. He was very politically active and socially active, but he also had this interest in folk music, and he was running a really famous coffee house in Toronto in the 60s called the Bohemian Embassy. And he realized that the way to get the revolution was through music.
Yeah.
And the way that you could create these social dynamics that he dreamed of for the society in general, that music festivals were sort of this platform that could create weekends of socialism. Mm-hmm. And in its sort of its altruistic form.
Yeah.
With everybody, different teams of people working in groups on a certain part of the event, and together the group of teams make this whole thing happen. And also the way he treated artists and brought them in on an equal footing, no matter where they were at in their career. If you were hired and programmed at the Winnipeg Folk Festival, it was because you had a place there. And it wasn't about, how as commoditized as the scene has become.
Yeah.
It was about the art and the combinations of artists you could put together on stage and create these really unique moments solely based on the art that they made and who they were as people. Not at all based on what the talk of the town was.
Yeah.
Or the flavor of the day.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah.
And so that is definitely the culture that I was brought up in. Eventually, I did get the folk music bug, and at 16, started playing old-time clawhammer banjo, which is what my dad taught me. I took piano lessons when I was 10 till I was 15, but I hadn't really connected that piano could be something that you played music that you liked with. I was learning the classical stuff, and it was fun, but it wasn't really driving me. And it was a few cool moments that happened where I saw the music happen, and I saw the reaction, and I heard the melodies, and I heard the chords and the rhythm, and it all kind of connected. And, oh, this is what that is. That's what my parents' music was. Oh, that was what was coming out of the stereo. Oh, wow. That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. This feels great, And so I started playing music. And then a couple years after that, I started a band called Scrooge McDuck. And that was ridiculous. SCRUJMACDUHK.
Amazing.
It was supposed to be like a mock Gaelic spelling. I started it with a button accordion player from Newfoundland and this fella in Winnipeg who played Highland bagpipes, but he also played the steel pan. And in fact, he'd taken the Scottish repertoire
Oh, wow.
and converted it onto steel pan, like pipe music. And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever heard. And
Yeah.
that, and a great Irish accordion player from Newfoundland and myself on clawhammer banjo, it made this really cool sound. And so I just sort of put my foot down and said, we're going to be a band, you know? And that morphed over the years. We got to, people came, people went. Ruth Moody, who's in the Whalen Jennies, we went to school together, and her folks lived across the street from my aunt. So I recruited her into the band, and she gave us legitimacy in terms of, we had a real singer now. And
Yeah.
And not only that, she was a great musician and could teach us a lot about actual music too. And, and it was like this cool circular thing. And that went on for a few years. And then that sort of hit a wall. But then I started the Ducks, and she started the Jennies. And the Ducks was a band that was sort of along the same lines as Scrooge McDuck, slightly different, bit more experience at the beginning in terms of who the players were. Like, I'd already had 6 years of playing, starting that band.
Yeah.
Tanya Elizabeth, who's now with the Avett Brothers down in the States, was 18, and she learned from Daniel Lapp out on the island.
Yeah.
And she came to Winnipeg, and I borrowed a bunch of money from my family to basically start this band, and it paid off pretty much, in the long and short of it. We did pretty well. We got 4 Juno. Every one of our records got a Juno nomination, and one of them won. And we were part of a Grammy win for a collaborative project that we were involved with. And another one of our singles got a Grammy nomination in a big country category against the Dixie Chicks, which was amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Best duo and roots, the best duo or group performance. And it was in a country category. And that was wild for us because it wasn't really a country song. And
yeah, I bet.
And we weren't a country band, but it was still an amazing. And the song was called "Heaven's My Home," so I guess they dug it. But yeah, we sort of made some waves in the States, and that went basically from 2002 to around 2011, and then I try to keep it going till 2014, but that eventually kind of fizzled out. And as that was fizzling out, I guess there was another couple music projects that happened too. One with Nathan Rogers, who's Stan Rogers' son, and who was my dad's partner, Brian, in a lot of ways. Stan, J.D. Edwards from the Small Glories. And
there's so many amazing musicians in Winnipeg too, hey?
Yeah, there really is. It's the scene out here. We could have a whole podcast about. You could have a whole series of podcasts about the scene in Winnipeg.
That's very true.
Pretty lucky to be here. And there was a couple other cool projects that happened. Got to play in the UK quite a bit with a fellow named Matt Gordon, and who's an old-time fiddle player and dancer from a troupe called the Fiddle Puppets, who were very inspiring when I was young. Mm-hmm. But as the music, as the Ducks was sort of fading out, my dad was also starting to not be able to work in the same way as he always had, mm-hmm. and then eventually could not work anymore. Knowing it or not, I had 20 years experience sort of in arts administration, doing budgets, writing grants, making schedules, doing all, a lot of the same things that an arts organization does, a band has to do.
Absolutely, they do, especially in this country because we are so lucky to have the grant system we have.
That's right.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's not unique in the world, but it's certainly unique around here.
Yeah.
As far as the North American scene goes, I have a lot of colleagues in the United States who they're just shaking their head. They can't believe that the government and governments and levels of government and arm's length organizations support the arts like they support other industries and support other
crazy.
It's crazy. Like, what? You're what? And you're going to give an artist money because they're going to make art?
What a crazy idea.
Yeah. Because believe it or not, it's an investment in the society, both economically and also in the lifeblood.
Yeah.
I think Winston Churchill made a quote, said, and this is not a direct quote, but it was along the lines of, like, if we don't support our artists and if we don't value our art, then what is a war worth fighting for? Like, what is it that we're actually trying to protect?
No, it's true.
And the art, the artists are the ones that And it's not just from one point of view either. Artists cover all points of view.
Mm-hmm. They do, and you know, they shape our culture.
That's right.
So if you take it away, you have no culture, and then, as you said, there's nothing worth fighting for. Right?
What is it that we're just trying to protect our piece of the economic world pie for our group of
yeah, I guess.
billionaires, I suppose. You know, I mean, I don't know. But yeah, so as my dad was less able to work and my band started to wane,
yeah,
it sort of made sense for me to come into that role.
And so here we are.
Here we are. I would say that's, you know, I did this and I did that, but I played music a lot and met a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And saw how a lot of things are done and saw some really amazing things in terms of how people present folk music and how the communities get involved in what they do. And so it feels good here.
All right. So for those that don't know, Home Roots is a Winnipeg-based nonprofit organization. It was initiated by the founders of the Winnipeg Folk Festival and the West End Cultural Center, which are your parents.
Yeah.
And it was created to champion artists and volunteer concert hosts in communities across Canada. And this has grown into a community of almost 200 people. And each of those people host 6 shows a year in houses and small halls in their communities. So you guys were basically the original like house concert sort of platform. Is that right? Or does it just feel like you were, because there's different ones now?
Yeah, there's a few different folks that are doing it. There's an organization called Concerts in Your Home in the United States who built a platform much like Side Door Access.
Yeah.
It's meant as a matchmaking organization, a matchmaking platform online for artists who are looking to tour and looking to find venues with prospective homeowners that want to put on a show, and then they can kind of connect. And it's kind of like dating. And if you're on the road and you're successful to put on a string of shows, then that's great. What we do is slightly different. You know, the motivation behind it is exactly the same.
Yes.
You know, those other organizations, you know, I know the folks down south, and also, you know, Laura Simpson and Dan Mangan, who run the Side Door, and I'm here to tell you that, you know, they're coming at it from a different angle. It's a for-profit business, and it's meant to be a conduit between presenters and artists, but they're not booking, they're not presenting, they're not promoting. I know that they come at it from the same place of trying to create opportunity for musicians, you know, trying to build the infrastructure for musicians. So what we do is we recruit people out of the woodwork in the community. Typically now, with our bigger online presence and stuff like that, there's more people coming to us. I mean, at the beginning, we used to call librarians and say, "Who's the mover and shaker in town?" You know, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, you're trying to get the sense of the community, right?
Yeah, without knowing anything about it or knowing anybody in it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like a lot of cold calling.
Oh, I can imagine.
Before my time.
Yeah.
You know, it was a lot of like, yeah, we're not talking to, we're not soliciting. We're not, so there, it was a lot of like targeted, like people in the community who would know somebody.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They built this network of tours. So we actually program the artists, we recruit the hosts, and then we schedule the hosts based on their geographic location. We divide them up into a particular route so that the artist can do 12 shows in a 2-week time frame with a couple days off, with shows sort of like no more than 3 hours or an hour and a half apart. The hosts put up the artists. They feed them dinner, usually breakfast too, even though that's not really supposed to be a part of the deal. That's just what happens, you know?
Nice people.
Yeah. And it's amazing because, you know, as a performer, you know, there's all kinds of different stages you play on. And what you're always trying to do is break down what's known as the fourth wall.
Exactly.
You know, the wall that the imaginary wall between the artist on stage and the audience, to try to create this unifying vibe that brings everybody all together. You know, and when you're in someone's living room, there's barely a fourth wall there to break down.
It's true. Yeah.
And it's always a really intimate vibe. And what's interesting about the Home Roots Network traditionally is that they're not people who have always fancied themselves as presenters, you know, or music promoters. These are local movers and shakers that are, and they're community builders. So they don't really necessarily know the music of the artist other than the CD that we sent them or the music that we've pointed them in the direction of. They see that they have the vision that the show can be the platform to bring the folks together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a surprise. And so it's like a Home Roots concert becomes like opening a present.
You don't know what you're getting.
You don't know what you're getting, but it's going to be good.
Oh, totally.
And it's going to be different than last time.
And it's like such a communal experience, right? Like kind of bringing it back to this power of community. The idea of it is that you're all sharing in the same moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And everybody, I'd say most of the really great house concerts on our circuit happen when, it's also like a potluck.
Yeah.
Or they divide it up. They divide up the concert might be over here, but you might be staying over at these people's house.
Yes.
And the community gets involved. And so going forward, we're going to be making a lot of effort to try to build more people from the community into the experiences, into the things that the artists do while they're in town, and to just use it. I like to call it like a Mr. Potato Head when you take it out of the box. It's just this thing with these circles, holes in it, and then you get to plug in.
You can build it however you want, right?
The ears, and you can build it however you want. And so I think every town, we're going to be looking for more people to get involved.
That's awesome. I mean, you kind of touched on this a little bit. I'm wondering, like, how things have changed over the years. You touched on it just saying, I'm sure the internet has helped things out. You don't have to cold call the library anymore. It's probably easier to find people. But since it started and to where we are now, like, how have things changed with Home Roots?
Well, a lot of things have changed in the world and in the business.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I will say, as when you have hosts that do it year in and year out, and a network that we're building like this, is when it's new in a town is when it's really exciting.
Yeah.
The more connected we become, the more busy people get, the more expensive things are, the more competition for not just within, what else are the other entertainment money are they going to spend it on, but what other realities of life do they have to deal with? So as the organization has gone on, we found it necessary to figure out ways to keep it exciting and new,
mm-hmm.
and to renew, as hard as the last couple years have been.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about COVID. I mean,
yeah.
That must have been such a crazy time for you. How did your business shift during that time?
Yeah. So we canceled nearly 100 tours
Oof.
over a season and a half. We had a whole season and a half booked and programmed and scheduled. We were out ahead of the game. So we immediately, without thinking about it, without knowing what we're going to do, without knowing how much work it actually was to make it good, we asked all those artists who we were canceling,
yeah,
hey, would you be interested in, we'll give you our Facebook login. And, we'll say that you're going to be on Home Roots Online. So we made the Home Roots Online National Folk Festival or something like that. And it was just a joke. We didn't really,
Yeah.
So for 2.5 months, we had a different stream every day. It built up our social media following greatly, and national interest in our organization among a whole new group of people who didn't even know what Home Roots was. And in that process, we also did these collaborative projects because the government, sort of 8 to 10 months into it, were like, okay, well, we have to come up with some new funding and some, sustainability funding and resiliency funding for arts organizations who all of a sudden
they have nothing. Yeah, I mean, it's killed the industry. So,
so we applied for a few different projects, and we did a handful of really wonderful collaborations with different cultural organizations, with different artists working simultaneously, doing shows with multiple artists in different locations, all working together at the same time using StreamYard. We do this thing in Winnipeg called the Cranky Festival, and crankies are moving panoramas that are framed in a box, and you crank the cranks and the picture moves while you're telling the story or singing the song. So we put songwriters and visual artists together and did this thing called Prairie Panorama, and built mentorships with aspiring musicians and seasoned musicians, and really learned about collaborating on projects, and we really expanded what we do. We learned how to produce pre-recorded TV music shows, online live Zoom interactive concerts.
Yeah.
Happened, kind of grew out of that. And we've been working with Graham and Ryan Lindsay from Wavelength Media, and Kathy Crawford, who came to our organization from our friends at the Mission Folk Festival, and she works for both. They've been running all the Zoom shows, and it's been wonderful. And that's been the great part, is to see that you can actually, this thing that we're sick of using for work is actually a really connective way to present music on Zoom. It's unbelievable, or whatever platform where you can see the audience, and you can
connect,
and the artists are in their living room and you're in your living room. And even though it's a Zoom call, it's kind of like a house concert. Only, like for Chris Ludica, for example, Old Man Ludica, he had 500 people at his house concert.
Oh, wow.
And all of a sudden we were sending artists some pretty decent checks. This feels really good.
Yeah.
And in that whole process, we were like, oh my God, the internet, it's so great. How are we going to do this? Well, whenever we can do tours again, the internet is going to be involved.
So you can kind of do like a hybrid. So like an actual house concert, and maybe some of them streamed or
Yeah, exactly. Like there's some venues that are going to have streaming, and we'll stream it. And, maybe it'll just be for free on social media. Now that we have an active Facebook following, and we can use the tours to disseminate blogs that the artists make, and all kinds of things that we can do before and after the tour to build up the artist and to build up the tour and to create the narrative. And then also do, maybe a couple months after their tour, they're going to do a Zoom show, and we'll market it to our hosts where they played, and everyone else at large too. And it can all kind of just connect. So as rough as the pandemic has been, it's also had a silver lining for us, in that it's allowed us to renew, and allowed us to take stock, and allowed us to become digitally literate sort of, and to understand what stuff like Wikidata is, and metadata, and how to make ourselves more discoverable. And
yeah. I think everybody in this industry has had to learn a lot of things that they probably wouldn't have otherwise, right? Just as we're like pivoting and adapting to this new world that we're living in.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's, what's great too, is that in learning it, we're also able to teach it, and so when we're working with artists, especially when we do Zoom shows for the first time, and they're completely petrified about what to do. And then by the time we've gone through the process, had the discussion about what kind of gear they need, helped them to set it up, helped them to sound check, done sound checks, told them what's worked and what hasn't worked in past shows.
Yeah.
You don't want to have a bunch of bright lights behind you, because then it's really hard to look at.
Exactly.
Like you think you're decorating and you're making it all mystical, but really what you're doing is creating a whole bunch of light that's going to go directly into the camera, and therefore into the eye of the viewer, and it's been really neat to see the growth of some artists from the very beginning of the process to the end.
Yeah.
Especially when you do a series, but I guess we haven't really talked about community yet, but.
Well, I'm getting there. So over the last few years, the power of community in music is definitely a subject that's come up, for me quite a bit, like in a lot of the conversations I've been having with colleagues and friends. And now that live shows are back, for now, anyway,
right.
I hope they stick around. Yeah, but they're back for now. How important do you think community building is for artists? I know that this is something that's especially important for folk artists.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that the folk scene even exists in the way it does goes back to McCarthyism in the 50s, when folks like the Weavers, who were on the top of the pop charts, got blacklisted. They lost all their gigs.
Mm-hmm.
No one would write about them anymore. No one would do anything. No one would touch them. Oh, except for, a couple of like-minded folks from the woodwork who say, what, we're going to put on where we're going to do it? In our houses. And it kind of like built up from there. I mean, I'm overgeneralizing for sure.
No, I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was the kind of vibe. And then, a lot of the topics that folk musicians sing about tend to be, sure, there's songs about their love life and some things like that, things in life, but also typically, if you're going to say if there was a genre of music that, well, there's hip hop and there's which I think is folk music,
Yeah.
and folky music, acoustic folk. Most of the people a lot of the people that are attracted singer songwriters typically, have something to say.
Mm-hmm.
And they're informed, their opinions and their stories are informed by the world around them. And so they've come to realize that their shows are wonderful platforms to bring people together. Let's invite a nonprofit who are trying to raise money for homeless folks, or for the women's shelter, or for the food bank, or for long-term care for addicts, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the environment. Gee whiz. Oh yeah, that. That thing.
Yeah, remember that.
It's a great way. It's a great way to bring people together and to give everything a platform. And it's circular. What happens is those causes get more airtime, and at the same time, the artists expand their fan base, because there's those volunteers who came from the organization. They're going to remember, oh my God, you know what? The Waylon Jennys, I wasn't a fan before, but I went to their show and they gave us this platform, and they came out, they talked to us. They were really, really nice. And they spoke about our cause at their show and how important it was to them.
Mm-hmm.
Then the part that they don't say is, I'm going to go and buy their record.
Yeah.
Or
I'm going to tell a few more people about this band.
And they're going to tell a few more people about it.
Yeah.
And there's a few more people. It's expanding the breadth for everybody.
Yeah.
And so using that theory is how we're going to go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when Home Roots started, it was making waves in that it didn't implicate the typical stakeholders of the music business. It was really to create a couple of good more weeks of work for artists. It wasn't thought of so much in like, it's going to be show development. It's not going to be career development in that you're going to make a whole bunch of new fans. You're going to have a bunch of great experiences. You're going to make a little bit of dough.
It just kind of bridges the gap for a lot of artists, right?
Well, yeah, but also it's a great place to work your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's not gonna.
No, it's like in the same way that a comedian would play a small room to work something out, right? Yeah,
exactly. And however, the gas prices since Home Roots has started have probably quadrupled. Now with inflation. But we don't want to be in a place where we want to say, oh, you want to come to the house concert? You got to come up with $40 or $35. You're going to have a special, unique, intimate experience that's going to be unique to you. And so it's worth $40. I mean, it's worth $100, but, we want to charge $25 or $20, and so the way to do that is to take that energy and to expand upon it in the community, and to take those principles and include more folks. So what I was going to say is that, like the promotion of the shows was all the word of mouth of the hosts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Super grassroots, right?
Super grassroots. No, we'd send them 20 posters and they'd put them up.
Yeah.
But it was mostly about them getting on the phone and convincing their circle of people to come.
Yeah.
Now, how it's changed, because the world is even harder place, and things are even more expensive. The money that was coming in at the beginning hasn't gone down drastically, but it doesn't mean the same as it used to.
Mm-hmm.
We need to figure out a way to not only start up again, but how to make it excellent for artists.
Mm-hmm.
And to say it's okay, it is 2 weeks of your time on the road. And so it actually does have to be about career development. And how can we do that? And how can we make it so that it's not just building on the infrastructure for 2 weeks of work, but it's actually truly building on the infrastructure of music presentation all year round for all the stakeholders in the country.
Yeah.
So what we're going to try to do is, coming out of COVID, unless you have a really big house, where there's a nice airy room where 30 or 40 people can sit and not jammed up against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it. Let's find a space in the community that's in public. Because once you take it into the public sphere, we can advertise, we can market it, we can get interviews, we can have people that you don't know.
Yeah, it's for me, like as a publicist, it's the bane of my existence when there's a house concert because I can't do anything with that. Right? Like they have to be as part of a tour for the artists to tour, to make money, and I understand it and to build their community. But like it's like, well, if that's your only show in Victoria, well, there's not much I can do, right?
Well, and unless the host is totally up for the public,
which they usually aren't, which I understand.
Exactly. Yeah, and especially now, who wants to have 40 strangers in their house?
Totally.
But at the same time, to truly build on the infrastructure, what I see in the future is that we're gonna bring it into the public sphere, and as an organization, we're going to support the hosts to become community presenters.
Yeah.
And to get their team interested in working with booking agents and working with people all year round, and finding local sponsors who are going to sponsor the artist to come and play in the school and hook the artist up with the nursing home.
Or like the community hall or whatever, right?
The community hall, and just have a few different places in the community that they play while they're there. They can get paid from a bit of sponsorship money that's local. They get paid from the tickets at the door. We're making more connections involving more people in the shows that are in public that we can sell tickets to online.
Mm-hmm.
La 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 la.
No, that makes sense to me because you're like just building up an infrastructure for people to move into, right? So
that's right.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. That's a great idea. Good job.
Well, we'll see if it, hopefully it'll work. But I think, that's sort of the deal, is that there does need to be more infrastructure. There needs to be more places and more opportunities for musicians who play music.
Well, it comes down to access sometimes, right? So that's basically is you're just building access for these people, and you're also building a great experience for the community, right? So it's a win-win.
That's right. Yeah, and here's the thing: the one way, Home Roots still will kind of buck the trend. We still engage lots of artists that no one's heard of them because they're brand new, or because sometimes it's because they don't do it professionally, but they're awesome.
Yeah.
And if we kept our booking to what a label or what an agency, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of the hosts that work in our network are really excitable community builders and movers and shakers that would be willing to do it more.
Yeah. And
would talk to their local venue or run it in the exact same way as a house concert, just in public.
That's great.
But that's what the community is, what, built the folk scene. It was always underground, I would say, before the last 20 years, before Riverdance, before Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Like, banjos?
What are those?
Like, you didn't see that? Like, what are those? Like, huh? It's unbelievable how many famous people play banjo now. It's great.
Oh, yeah. Banjos are very hot right now. Wrapping things up a little bit, let's get back to the Home Roots 15th anniversary tour, which is happening now. What can you tell us about the tour? And by the way, this will be airing before the last show in Winnipeg on April 29th. So what can you tell us about the 15th anniversary tour?
So there's a couple things. It represents the 15th anniversary, the rebirth after the touring break.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing lots of these online shows and collaborations. So we wanted to do one that kind of could raise awareness for the tours and for the fact that it travels around the country. And also sort of harkening back to a tour that my dad promoted in 1980 in Alberta called the Traveling Folk Festival and Good Time Medicine Show.
So folky. I love it.
Ridiculous. It's so folky. And so we just called this the Traveling Good Time Medicine Show. And so the Traveling Good Time Medicine Show is really, it's just a series of 5 online shows from different cities. But we wanted that tour in 1980, it had all kinds of wonderful artists on it that got into a school bus and went around from town to town in Alberta. And sort of without knowing it, it was laying the groundwork in my dad's sort of soul.
Yeah.
About Home Roots. And kind of planted the seed. And, when you look at my old man's trajectory, first he started the Winnipeg Folk Festival, and then the Vancouver Folk Festival, and then the Winnipeg Children's Festival, And then the Stan Rogers Folk Festival, West End Cultural Center was in there too.
Yeah.
Small little theater. And then the next thing, this house concert organization that seemingly does all these small shows. But actually it's, it's still 70 or so artists a year playing to thousands of people, making hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a huge thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. I just think the community concerts, they're so valuable in so many ways.
They really are.
We can't wait to bring them back again. So this Good Time Medicine show is a way for us to show the folks we're a traveling organization. We work with all kinds of different artists. We're announcing that we're doing it again, and come and join the tour.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll be back live soon, but let's do this first. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now seems like kind of a good time to head on over to our fresh content segment. Every week on the show, we discuss our favorite piece of music content for the week. And we always like to start with a guest. So, Leonard, what have you got?
Well, a song I really love is called Movin' On by a band from Ithaca, New York called Donna the Buffalo.
Oh.
They're originally called Dawn of the Buffalo. But they started playing in Massachusetts quite a bit, and everyone kept calling them Donna the Buffalo. So then they actually changed their name to Donna the Buffalo.
That's funny.
and
I love it.
They're an amazing roots rock band. They're influenced a lot by Cajun and Zydeco music, and
I'm in.
And also rock and roll, and old time Appalachian music too, in a way. But they're a full on like rock band. There's fiddle and electric guitar and drums and bass. And the singer's name is Tara Nevins, and she's a wonderful writer. Also, Jeb Puryear sings songs as well. The record is called Positive Friction. The song is called Movin' On.
Moving on. I'm going to listen to it right after we're done here. You really got me hooked on that one.
Oh, you're going to... I hope you enjoy it as much as I do.
Well, I'm sure I will. It sounds you did it. You sold it well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they're this great band. We saw them. A lot of them have been connected in the old time music world for a long time. And when I say old time music, I mean traditional Appalachian string band music, fiddle and banjo and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
pre-bluegrass from the Ithaca scene. Richie Stearns, the Tompkins County Horseflies. These are all kind of bands that influenced my generation quite a bit. And so we went down to this festival, the Ducks, this festival called the Sewanee Spring Fest in Live Oak, Florida. And these guys were big stars at this festival. We eventually became fairly well liked at that festival as well. We got to know them really well and played this festival twice a year for like 9 years in a row. And yeah, they're just a band that I really wish had more juice up here in Canada, because they're just wonderful.
Well, you're helping spread the word. So that's great. My fresh content is from someone a little more well-known, but, still very good. So my fresh content for the week is the new song from Lizzo, and it's called About Damn Time. It's the latest single from her new album, Special, which I think is coming out this summer. Anyway, it's one of those songs that just puts you in a good mood right away. And like most of the pop music coming out right now, like Dua Lipa, that sort of thing, it has a super cool disco vibe to it. This song in particular is very, very Nile Rodgers. So if you're into like that sweet, sweet disco bass line, it's so good. So yeah, check it out. I'll link to both of these things in the show notes, and you can listen to two, I'm sure, very different, but very good songs.
Awesome. I just wanted to put something else out there too.
Sure.
Because you're talking about completely different kind of music. Check out Lucas Graham too. Lukas. Mm-hmm. He's half Danish, half Irish. Grew up in Christiania.
Oh, jeez.
In Copenhagen. His dad was the booking agent for a whole bunch of North American and Irish and Scottish traditional bands. He would tour them around Denmark. But Lucas, like me, grew up in the folk music business, but unlike me, was way smarter and went, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to try to make money in the folk music business." And he became this huge, massive Danish pop star.
Oh, I love it.
And so check him out. There's a song called 7 Years.
Okay.
that was pretty. 7 years old, and Drunk in the Morning is really great.
Amazing.
But he's my pop go-to.
I like it. Oh yeah, you got to have those go-tos for sure. All right. Well, you know what? Thanks so much for joining me today, Leonard. Thanks for, giving the time. Is there anything else you want to plug before we go? Maybe send people to the website?
Yeah, no, exactly. I would say check out Home Roots. That's HOMEROUTES.ca if you're interested in either being an artist or hosting in a community space, in a public space, hosting a community concert as a volunteer leader.
Love it.
Give us send us a line, and we'd love to talk to you.
Do it. Build the community.
Yeah, that's you want to do it. It's been itching. It's been picking at the back of your brain for years, and you always wondered if you could, put on a show. And
you can.
You definitely can, and we need you to.
All right. Well, thanks again, and have a good rest of your day.
You too, Jen. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was such a great talk. I really hope you liked it. And thanks again to Leonard for coming on the show. Thanks so much for listening to the FM podcast. If you like the show, please tell your friends and give us a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. The FM podcast is produced by Fritz Media with production assistance from Carla J. If you want to learn more about Fritz Media, check out our website at fritzmedia.ca. And you can follow us on Facebook. We're at Fritz Media. And on Instagram and Twitter at Fritz_media. And if you want to learn more about the podcast, go to the fmpodcast.com. A big thank you, as always, to Said the Whale for providing the theme music for the show, and you can check them out at saidthewhale.com. Okay, so we're going to go out with our Song of the Week this week, which is the brand new single from Vancouver funk band Gnarfunkel, which they released last week on 4/20, as you do. This is Bamboo Bong.
Yo, I think I got a chill play hooky. Spinning on my grill on those Girl Scout cookies. I rolled up a hand cannon, light it up and I blaze purple haze like I'm Superman. And I don't wanna work, I just laying around. Trapped in the murk, I just playing around. So I'ma hit that shadow, hold them joints fatter, make a pin chatter, swing better, up to my plate. My snake super size, hold it up to my face. I get the bottom line, have been told to the limbo. You're so laid back, life is so simple, just face the facts. That I grind the grass like a lawnmower, like a lumberjack. I'm a log roller, gotta get my bone full. Come on. I just think that sometimes the world is asinine, but I don't care 'cause I've got my bamboo bone. So bring me that CD and give me hits your teeth, and I'll just take them straight out my bamboo bone. Call me Mr. Rogers, you know I never stress. Into a little bag, the dimes are will invest. I'm hooked and hopeless, here to confess. Hop up, chip, on the pineapple espresso, wicked make. Motherfuckers take, roll up with that check. On my way, never hesitate. Breathing in and wheeling and I'm feeling the ceiling. And wall change like a chameleon. I just think that sometimes the world is asinine, but I don't care 'cause I've got my bamboo bone. So bring me that sweet tea and give me hits your tea, and I'll just take them straight out my bamboo bone.
The new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors.
times. The world is out tonight, but I don't care 'cause I've got my bamboo bong. So bring me that sweet leaf and give me it so deep, and I'll just take them straight out my bamboo bong.
Bye. I'll see you next Tuesday.